Thank you. Gentlemen, if you could sum up.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Members, Mitch Seaman with the California Labor Federation, also here in support of the bill. As demonstrated by the previous witness, we think the evidence is pretty clear that abuses have taken place and that a problem exists. And not only is it having a pretty demonstrated negative impact on the working conditions and the rights of these workers, it's also negatively affecting the educational quality of students. This bill offers a solution. We urge your support.
Thank you. Others in support, if you could state your name, affiliation, and your position.
Mr. Chair, members of the committee, Ron Rapp with the California Federation of Teachers. We have not taken a formal position on the bill yet, but we hope to support it. Thank you.
Thank you. Any opposition?
Good afternoon, Mr. Chair and members. Lee Angela Reed on behalf of the Small School Districts Association. Under current law, small school districts of 250, small school districts and county offices of less than 250 students are exempt from the requirements to make permanent non-supervisory, non-management positions, psychologists, and speech therapists and so forth. The reason for this is practical. As needs change locally, small school districts don't have the resources and often don't have the students that will need those services. And so this, the current exemption allows them some flexibility. You could have a district of under 30 kids. They have one student who's deaf or hard of hearing. They hire a speech therapist for that child. The child graduates or moves. There's no longer a need for the services of that person, but this bill would require them to be permanent. It's an extreme burden on school districts. We look forward to working with the author to try to address this for the small school districts if the bill moves forward.
Thank you. Any further witnesses in opposition?
Yes, Mr. Chairman and members, Brendan Tewig on behalf of EdVoice. We think while the Vergara decision is under appeal, that it's not prudent to move this forward at this time because we think it's in conflict with the time frame and processes related to that. So we'd like to register our opposition at this point.
Thank you. Seeing no further opposition, do members of the committee wish to comment? Seeing no members, do we have a motion? I'll move. We have a motion. We have a second. You may close, Mr. Medina.
Respectfully ask for your aye vote.
Madam Secretary, you may call the roll, please.
O'Donnell?
Aye.
O'Donnell, aye. Oh, the motion is due pass to appropriations. Chavez? Chavez not voting. Kim?
No.
Kim, no. McCarty? Santiago? Pardon me, I didn't.
Aye? Is that aye?
Okay, sorry. Santiago, aye. Thurman? Weber? Weber, aye. Thurman? Aye. Thurman, aye. So it's 4 to 1.
The bill is out.
Yes, 4 to 1.
The bill is out at 4 to 1. It's also on call. Thank you. Where are we moving now? We'll now move on to Mr. Gallagher. AB 517, file item number 3. File item number 3.
Mr. Chairman, if it's not out of order, Mr. Dodd tells me he has a quick one, and if it's not out of order and it's okay with you, I'd let him go right before me if that's okay with you.
I'm sorry? You know, actually, we need to take you because I have to leave.
Okay.
I apologize, Mr. Dodd. You lose today. You'll win again.
Told me it was going to be real quick.
It's a good Irishman there. We need you, though, Mr. Gallagher.
Sorry. It's a crowded day today, so I was grabbing my witnesses.
I did when I called it.
Oh, you did?
Yeah.
Sorry.
Number 3. Mr. Gallagher, you may open. And again, remembering that your witnesses, if they could limit their time and just be very specific, it would be very helpful. I know we had a conversation this morning wherein you stated maybe you might go over a little bit, and I appreciate that. But again, if we could be as succinct as possible, it would help the business of this committee.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. We did talk with the witnesses ahead of time as well. Mr. Chairman, late last year, parents at Acalanes High School in Lafayette were informed about an upcoming sex education program that would be held at the school for the freshman class. In that notice that was given to parents, the parents were notified that the class would be provided instructors by Planned Parenthood and that it would cover topics such as sex and sexuality, sexual responsibility, STDs, reproductive anatomy, human reproduction, HIV/AIDS, contraception, and relationships, dating, violence. They were also notified that the presentation would provide information that abstinence is the only 100% effective way to prevent pregnancy and STDs, that actions have consequences, that responsible decision-making can prevent a person from contracting STDs or becoming pregnant, and that there are ways to say no to peer pressure. And finally, they were noticed that all medical information would be based on CDC and other respected medical institutions' information. What they got was far from what was advertised. One of the instructors worked at a sex toy shop, and another was a self-proclaimed pleasure activist who had recently attended a convention for the porn industry. Students were presented with a warm-up questionnaire which made statements such as, "I know when my body is sexually aroused. I can tell my partner what feels good." And they were also presented with a form on how to obtain consent for sex with questions like, "Do you like it when I touch you here?" Or, "Is it okay to take my pants off?" The kids that left this class reportedly went home to their parents saying that they were embarrassed and that they even felt pressured to have sex and that they were abnormal for not wanting to. This is not the only documented example of a third party providing what I think most reasonable people would agree is an inappropriate sex education program. And there is also the cases that we don't know about because, quite frankly, when third parties provide the instruction, parents and oftentimes educators have no idea who is providing the instruction and what it is that they are saying to our children. AB 517 attempts to empower parents and protect children by requiring schools to receive consent from a student's parent or guardian in order for that student to participate in sexual education when that education is provided by third-party consultants. AB 517 grants parents more authority over what their children are exposed to in the classroom by actively enabling them to provide written permission for their children to participate in these lessons when they are taught by outside consultants. Parents expect sexual health instruction to provide responsible, age-appropriate education to students about sexual health and risk, not to embarrass them, pressure them, or promote sexual activity. I thank you for allowing me to bring this important piece of legislation before you, and I respectfully request your aye vote. Today with me I have two parents from Acalanes High School, Christina Lyons and Sally Wood, Michael Faber from Pacific Justice Institute, and Rebecca Pearson.
Thank you. Your first witness.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, members of the committee. My name is Christina Lyons. I'm the parent of 3 children, 2 of which are students at Acalanes High School in Lafayette. I'm here to support Assembly Bill 517. I have a Master's of Science and an Advanced Clinical Certificate in Infant Parent Mental Health. I have a clinical therapy practice in Lafayette, and I've been working with families and children for almost 20 years. Research has shown that sexual education is critical for positive outcomes among our teens, and for that reason, I fully support comprehensive sexual education. Families, more specifically parents, must be included in the sexual education of their children, and our schools should want to include them. That is exactly why I support AB 517. I don't have a lot of time to go into the details of what occurred at Acalanes. I'm more than happy, though, to answer your questions if you have some. 2 years ago, I didn't opt out my oldest out of sex ed, despite my concerns regarding Planned Parenthood teaching the class. My daughter was adamant that I not opt her out. Why would you want to be opted out of sex class? It's embarrassing. Teens don't want to be left out. Teens do not want to be stigmatized. Families deserve better than this. Another reason to support AB 517. when I talked to my child and her friends about the class, I can tell you that I was shocked at the detail of the material covered and the cavalier, immature manner in which it was delivered. What was taught to my child was not in any way, shape, or form reflected by these 8 bullet points. Had I known what would be delivered and how, I would have opted her out. This past January, my son was on deck to take the class. Now, I was a bit more savvy, so I asked for the materials in October. He was taking it in January. So in November, I get this, and I got 1 worksheet for each day of the 5-day class. There were no lesson plans available to me. I asked for lesson plans. No lesson plans because, guess what? Our principal didn't have lesson plans. Our teachers didn't have lesson plans. Why? Well, the lesson plans were not provided. So parents were never able to review lesson plans. That's part of California Education Code. We should be able to see everything. So I got smart and I asked, well, can I have a preview program? Can we see the class the way it's given to our children? No. Can I hear an audio tape of the class? No. Can we see a videotape of the class? No. Can I sit in on the class in October? No. Well, can you tell me the names of the teachers? No. It's unbelievable. When outside vendors are used opt-in is the only way to ensure that we know who's in front of our kids and what they're teaching our children. Opt-ins get parents asking questions, which will promote better transparency and hold the district accountable to having those materials on hand to give them to parents when they have questions. So this bill is not really about my personal views or anyone's views of Planned Parenthood or any other vendor for that matter. This bill is about parental rights. This bill is about acknowledging that sex education is very personal. It's a sensitive topic for teens and their families, and the law requires that parents be included in that conversation. So I'd like to ask you for those reasons to please support AB 517.
Thank you, Mr. Chair and members of the committee, for having me here today. My name is Sally Wood, and I am a parent of 3 children in the Acalanes Unified High School District. I came here today to support Assembly Bill 517 because it empowers parents to have more authority over some of the most sensitive aspects of our children's education, their sexual education. I value sexual education for our youth. Knowledge is needed to make informed decisions. I also believe parents' rights regarding the raising of their children should be respected. My experience regarding sex education in our district was wrought with problems. There was no instructional material for parents to view prior to the instruction. Anonymity was given to the instructors, yet was not disclosed. This anonymity was not disclosed to the parents. School background checks were not performed on the instructors. They relied on the third-party providers. The provider marketed their services and moved from sex ed to sex promotion. Because the age of young people receiving sexual education from third-party providers is around 13 or 14, an age where parents are still legally responsible for their minor children, it is imperative that parents be fully informed on who will be teaching their son or daughter and what their child will be taught. This would necessitate active parental consent for sexual education. One reason to have this active parental consent for sexual education of their children is that the sexual education providers become the professionals or the go-to organization for confidential sexual questions and services. By having particular providers at a school, that school is in effect giving their endorsement or approval of the provider and their teachings. However, the values being taught by the parents to their children may not be supported by the third-party provider. This would be the case in my family regarding a popular sex ed provider who taught sex ed in the Acalanes Unified High School District. The provider describes itself as sex positive. By sex positive, this provider means there are no boundaries on your sexual expression, only the need for consensual sex. What this looks like in real life is that a parent's 13-year-old daughter can call the school-endorsed sex ed provider and receive counseling on all sexual activities, up to and including controversial topics such as bondage and discipline and sadomasochism, that are then, those young people are then counseled that that is a choice that only you can decide. That will be the extent of the guidance. As a parent, I believe these controversial topics violate the scope of high school sex ed. Our standards and practices concerning sex affect us deeply. Please support the rights of parents to give meaningful consent to their sons' and daughters' sexual education by supporting Assembly Bill 517. Thank you again for having me, and I respectfully request you vote aye on the Assembly Bill 517.